Very excited to host Apurva Chamaria today here at PwC. Apurva's a perfect blend of tech, innovation, investments, startups, venture capital, all of that coming together. What an exciting world he lives. And one thing that's common for a role like this is that you're constantly thinking about innovation, data, and also the responsible side of data and innovation and the underlying compliances and regulation. And I thought, who better than him to give a conversation to us about where the world of data is moving, how companies are trying to disrupt their business models with data, create new competitive advantages, and bringing in a layer of responsibility and ethics in how this is done. Hey Apurv, welcome to PwC.
Thank you so much.
It's always nice to have somebody come in who's living on steroids all the time, working with technology, startups, venture cap, and lots of exciting businesses and business models. So fantastic. Look forward to getting some insights.
Pleasure being here.
I think one commonality that I see in the role and the companies that you work for is they're all born in the cloud. They're all disrupting the way business was done, hyper-personalization, getting insights, quicker decisions, managing data well. There's a lot that large enterprises can learn from those companies, and I'm sure you have a helicopter view of all of that. So this conversation is largely going to be about how do we get better insights and better handle around data to be a progressive organization for future.
Excellent. Looking forward to it.
Super. Fantastic. There's just so much that's happening in the world of data itself, with AI coming onto the table and the push for business models. What's your take in terms of what do we expect in the years ahead? I mean, this world of data seems to be unfolding at a very fast pace.
So I think there's a paradigm shift happening in this world. 10 years ago or even 5 years ago, it was fine that you had a chief data officer and you had a data organization. And the common lingo that time, which all of us used very often, was data is the new oil. The world is running out of oil and data is plenty. I think the role now for the CDO has to change from chief data officer to chief AI officer, chief insights officer. And the data, finally, we have the tech to make it real, monetizable, insightful, and just in time. Today, AI allows the data to be democratized. You're not dependent on data teams, architecture teams, analyst hours to get answers to your questions. Anybody in the business team should be able to use democratized data to get real-time insights. Data was always monolithic, siloed, on-prem. Now we have data which is AI ready. And think about it as agentic AI allowing business decision makers to get insights and recommendations as and when they need it.
Yeah.
That's the world we are living in. In my world where we engage and work with startups and investors, most startups today are born on cloud.
Yeah.
Especially, and we like to think of it as pre-23 and post-23, so pre-AI, post-AI. In today's world, most of these companies are building agentic workflows, agents for everything rather than monolithic enterprise architecture. So that's the world.
Yeah, no, very, very interesting. And 2025 clearly is the year for agents, and hopefully large enterprises will start seeing agents crawl around and create value. But, as this, two things that come to my mind. One, while there's a lot more data and lot more insights and data is getting democratized, like you're saying, there's the other piece that also comes back and says there's only about 4% companies that have their data that is AI ready. And I'm talking about large enterprises. So that's a fair amount of shift that companies will have to get towards to be able to make data sensible and relevant. And the second related bit that comes to my mind, which is also a challenge that companies grapple with, is as they crawl towards getting more and more data sorted for AI and have agents bring in more and more data to the table, there's this thin line between, are you getting creepy? Are you kind of getting into a world of privacy and security kind of, and maybe even data ethics coming into the table. So those are two pieces, and I'd love to get your reaction on that.
Today's models, you don't need petabits and petabits of data. That whole thing about big data, today small data is more beautiful than big data. So firstly, you really, to create a small model is the bigger theme than LLM today.
Yeah, it needs more complexity of more intelligence, right? Yeah.
So if you're doing small models, you don't need large amounts of data. So the first is on data quantum. You today have providers of streaming data. So you can easily get second party, third party data, which is validated, which is clean. You can use AI to fill in missing data. So you don't need accurate and 100%. You can also use AI to validate data. That's the third thing. And I think security and privacy is going to be very important. So GDPR, India's DPDP. So I think both as advisors to clients or practitioners, I think the data security architecture and making sure that the PII is not exposed. We are using AI to mask data. We are putting AI-led noise in the data so that PII can't be identified. All these concepts are going to become really important.
So AI has to fight the risks of AI to be able to. Yeah, I know it's an interesting word. So the other thing that comes to my mind is, as data is getting more and more democratized, and data, the same set of data is hyper personalized to you and your role in your context, and to me and my role in my context. As data gets closer to users, data quality begins to be extremely vital, because you're on real-time basis getting insights and taking business decisions, but bad data leads to bad decisions. How do you, for companies as big as, I'm talking about large enterprises, but what can we learn from the smaller companies, the startups and the disruptors, in terms of putting arms around data quality across the organization so the insights we get are real?
I think the first is automated data quality pipelines. How do you start with quality at the beginning? Quality should not be an afterthought, or it should not be a checkpoint.
Quality in the design itself.
Quality in the design, that's the first part. Second, what is the contract between data producers and data consumers? That role has to be clearly defined in those contractual terms. Third is, I think, metadata management and lineage tracking. Almost like in manufacturing, you have e-pedigree, track and trace. What is the lineage tracking of data? And can you go back to the lowest common cell of that data and see who created it, when was it created? Lineage is very important. And metadata management, when does the data get outdated, refresh? If you don't do this, then you will basically you will say the AI project failed, not really realizing it's bad data.
It was your bedrock that was not in shape.
Absolutely. So I think you need to bite the bullet. You need to now realize you don't need humongous data, big data. And you need to put this governance, quality framework in process. The difficulty at times is business buyers have their own systems. Then there is a tech organization which has its own systems. And nobody has tried to put this together. That's where I think the role of a highly empowered chief AI officer comes in. Hopefully reporting into the CEO, so is highly empowered, accountable, and can really get this done, get various departments and silos broken.
Yeah, you can't decouple data and AI, they're all together.
Absolutely.
And I sometimes wonder, companies that still don't have, chief AI officer of course, but some companies don't yet even have a data officer, and that worries me, saying how is it that business will run and decisions get taken in a world that's moving really fast. In fact, one of the CEOs says the change has been never as fast as it is today, and it will possibly be the slowest that it's ever been. So that's the world we're living in. You spoke on governance as well, right? And that's another messy area where everybody wants to own data. Everybody wants to get access to data and information and insights, and it's almost like, how do I do business without it? But nobody wants to take responsibility for it. And that's a very serious problem that companies have to solve as a culture in the organization. I want to bring this conversation a little bit towards data strategy. There's a lot of large companies that we have which have got tons of data, and each time they put their thinking hat on data, they talk about risk management, how do we make sure that we are compliant? Data means managing risk, versus the world that you live and breathe. Data means insights, competitive advantage, and business edge. How should large companies be shaping data strategy? A lot of companies don't even have data strategy. What's your take on that?
It's a very, very important question to ponder on. I think if you're a digital native, if you're a startup, you are inherently by org design, by mentality, a optimistic company. And you're looking at using AI and data as an offense rather than as a defensive strategy. So when you go in and you start putting together your data strategy, you're thinking business KPIs, you're thinking time to market, you're thinking efficiency, you're thinking how do we design functions and orgs which are driven by AI versus FTE. You're not throwing people at a problem. Your revenue per employee is very high in today's world if you're an AI-led org. So you're going business KPI down. So if you think function by function and sub-functions and define which are the top 3-5 KPIs, what is the best in class in the industry looking like, where are you, and then define the strategy around that on how do you reduce it. So for HR, if you want to reduce your time to hire, for supply chain, if you want to reduce your inventory carrying cost, and your data strategy has to be business KPI driven versus, very, I think managing risk is super important for large orgs, but that can't be the main dish.
What I'm hearing and I'm enjoying is data strategy is the bridge between data and outcome. And how
Absolutely.
can that be not critical? I mean, it's a subset of your larger strategy in the firm, and the
Absolutely.
leadership has to drive that.
Absolutely.
Fantastic. But if companies have to get to that world where data is an offensive strategy,
Yeah.
you can't imagine that happening without bringing cloud and systems talking to each other and interoperability sort of
Yes.
coming into the table.
Absolutely. I think it's going to be very, very important. When you're thinking about your cloud environment, are you hybrid? Are you multi-cloud? Are you still on-prem? There are still enterprises in India which are on-prem. I think good part is now with hyperscalers, a lot of them have local DCs, so data residencies in India. Earlier, the reason for financial services, healthcare, public sector used to be, data residency has to be India, so we can't go on cloud. I think a lot of those reasons are mitigated. They're forward-looking healthcare organizations, financial services, public sector organizations which are already on cloud and either are hybrid cloud or multi-cloud environments. I think interoperability is going to be very important. You don't want to be tied into a vendor, so your ability to move in and out fast, the way you are architecting your enterprise. You really have to think TCO because storage cost is going up, but compute cost, what is the inferencing, what is the latency, if you're running AI workloads, the cost is different from traditional workloads. So taking a holistic picture of the enterprise and recrafting. A lot of enterprises who moved to cloud 5-6 years ago today have the opportunity to relook at their architecture, relook at the choices they have done and re-architect.
Yeah.
5 years is a long time in our world.
Yeah. No, I think that the role of a data architect is going to be very, very
Super important.
clear for the world that we're heading towards. And what about data ethics as well? Where do you think you're getting, we briefly spoke about this earlier on, but where do you think, because, in the world of customer and trying to hyper-personalize a delight for a customer, you may be tracking the customer a bit too much. How do you think, what's a structured way of kind of drawing the line there?
I think if you really take a first principle thinking approach to it, don't collect data which you don't need. I think many organizations and CXOs are guilty of, and even system analysts are guilty of designing systems that, hey, let's collect everything we might need it somewhere.
Yeah.
So from a design perspective, don't collect data which you don't need.
That's a big chunk of risk and ethics sorted actually.
Sorted.
Yeah. And the technology allows you to do that.
Absolutely. Like, why do you need somebody's blood group?
Yeah.
You're going to send a SMS, but why do you need, stuff like that? Why do you need their anniversary? Many things. So don't collect data you don't need. Second, follow DPDP in spirit, in form, not only legally. Spirit of the law is also very important. So consent is only valid for 6 months, refresh the content, purge the system. A lot of those things have to be built in.
I think I like the point of follow it in spirit then form, simply because I'd actually go back and say the complexity in regulation will keep moving up the curve.
Absolutely.
And companies who will stay ahead of regulation will actually build a strategic advantage.
Absolutely.
So, be bolder with compliance than just sort of do it for the heck of it.
And build it on your platforms. If you have a digital app or if you have a website or even a POS system if you're a retailer, build that in your workflow. Again, it should not be a side dish.
Yeah, no, I think it's a good one. Now, we spoke about compliance and risk and some of the bits, of course, data strategy. When you go around large companies, you talk to a telco, got 400 million customers. I've got tons of data. Can I do something beyond insights in terms of creating monetization? Large airlines, large commerce companies, banks, everybody's beginning to get to that world that you're talking about. What's your take on the opportunity behind data monetization?
So I think data monetization has always been a topic which has personally been very exciting to me. But if you think about a traditional organization, it's still I would say there's a chasm between first using data to effectively engage consumers, using agentic AI. Monetization is very high on the maturity curve. It's very high on the maturity curve. So I personally don't see a lot of organizations which are still at a level where they are using AI, data architecture, data strategy, to engage with consumers, to enable employees. Forget about data monetization. Data monetization is the real holy grail. And globally, we've had models like Data Consortium, where a bunch of people in the industry are getting together, sharing.
I just heard, SK Telecom, Deutsche Telekom, and Singtel come together.
Yes.
To be able to build a telco-specific model. That was the last year Mobile World Congress.
Absolutely.
So I'm sure a lot
At
of those models will
PwC,
come to play.
So I think those are very highly mature, highly evolved models, and I've seen some digital natives try to do it, to try to put together. So there's a space tech company which basically has tied up with more than 200 space organizations and which provides streaming space data on a pay-per-use consumption model. Because most space organizations don't have very good field force, sales teams to monetize their data globally. So some of those models are emerging in India now, but I think we are some way.
Mature. Yeah. But I think you've got a good sane advice. It's good to dream about monetization, but unless you get your core blocks right, you'll actually
absolutely
sort of dive into it. So be careful and sensitive about it. So, maybe just the last one here, the speed at which technology is changing, GenAI is coming in, people's ambition on data are crawling up, business and customers' need changing, means that the world of data is going to be on steroids.
Yes.
And it's a very fast moving, fast evolving space. If I were to ask you for one bold prediction that will be a reality in a few years, 5 years is a big cycle, but, maybe even smaller, what do you think that could be?
So I think my global prediction would be, I don't know whether it's 5 years out, 10 years out, users really becoming more data aware. Tech empowering users to decide what to share, when to share, how much to share. Users having real-time visibility into what is their data posture, where is their data being used, and at the flick of a button, deciding to switch off. So incognito mode, but not for web, for individuals.
This world of agents and this world of being able to get access to data and get insights, take decisions, it's going to be a very interesting space. But lovely catching up. One thing's for sure, data is clearly going to be front and center in the way businesses get managed and driven. Right. And this space is going to be very interesting with a lot of action and investments happening. Thank you so much for coming into PwC.
Thank you so much, Manpreet. Great speaking to you.